We all know, many of you know this, that if the message is being carried visually, it is sticking much better than we're just using the right word. So I always like to open up this way. You know, a lot of people say, oh my God, I have sleeping problems. I can't sleep really at night. So if you have a sleeping problem, the best thing you do, you just listen to a boring PowerPoint presentation. So let's talk about this here, guys. In the room, worst PowerPoint mistake. Let's start with a couple of things. What is the worst thing we can do in PowerPoint or any presentation software? Too much text. Yeah, horrible. It's too many slides. Yeah, it's not a slideshow anymore. It's called a movie, right? Okay, reading bullet points is one of the most horrible things that I see, even from seasonal presenters. People who are using the PowerPoint slide basically as their crutch, you know, being ill-prepared and needing to, what do I want to say, right? So we know all these mistakes, but unfortunately we see them all the time, and it's hard to remedy. But I think one way to improve the overall appearance of any PowerPoint presentation by itself, not PowerPoint, is to use something that human beings are really good at. Because human beings are really good, natural-born story listeners. And we can memorize stories so much better because that's how we store information. If I would give you three-digit numbers before this session and you cannot write them down, most of us will have problems. Remember these three-digit numbers. You know, it's going to be hard. But if I tell you an interesting story, you will probably remember most of that story as you move along. That's why stories are so powerful. People love to be part of the meaningful story. Things we need to consider when we're doing this. Even though we're teaching maybe in a fixed formula, we have to think about what time do I have available for this story? You know, is it enough? What's my audience looking like? You know, even between students, between graduate students and undergrad students, there's a difference of how we tell the stories. But always think, we all do this when we do presentations, what's my central point of the story again? And reiterate that there's nothing wrong with giving people the idea what the story means multiple times, because it's a remote subject for them. All right, we're talking about visual storytelling, so I'll show you examples of how to get to better stories. And here's the trick to these images. You have to think in metaphors. So we're not thinking in the image per se that we want to talk about. You always have to think about a metaphorical meaning. So remember, this is my slide for remember, because I have this finger, somebody made a knot in that, so that's for me a metaphor for remembering. And so when you use this, then people who see the image can easily relate to this image. It sticks in their mind. They don't have to interpret it. We love to see these metaphors. These are all shortcuts for a longer story. So this is what I use in competition when I talk about competition in the business school. Competition is like a neutral topic, but if you want to tell a real story what competition means, somebody's going to get after you, right? So they see this intense picture. Look at the face of the guy. You know, that's what happens when competition really hits you. So this is a slide I made some time ago, 10 commands in our presentation. This is, whoa, what a downer right now, right? Well, that's a classic opening slide for a lecture, right? We've seen that. When in our times we were victims of that, you know. Okay, let's see what we're doing. You're reading the slide, right? You're gone. What is this guy talking about? Stop talking. I want to read this slide, right? Because we believe that the written word is more important than the spoken word. It's a cultural thing. And my rule for a slide is, if a slide works, you know, if this works as without me talking about this, then it should be a slide. Right? It should be a handout. You can give this to people and say, hey, this is what I actually talked about. Here's some information, you know. All right. This is another thing I talked about. It's a presentation I did about James Cook, has to do with creativity and how he introduced lime juice to prevent scurvy on these long voyages. And then I go through how sauerkraut came about. See, it's just what I call the technique is it's a slide and a word. You know, and this is a 1,001 word slide, actually. That's how I call these slides. And what happens is the audience, you grab it, what's the story? Focus back on the presenter. So here I want to also give you the disclaimer about visual storytelling. There's one really bad part about it, and that is about preparation. This takes way more time than our typical slide set that we use. And you probably don't want to do this for all the things you present in the classroom, but I would always do this for kind of the opening word or the key point of your class, the highlight that goes, comes to the point, or something that you use as your kind of keynote, if you will. Where people invite you, can you talk about your special research topic or your special classroom topic? For those kind of presentations, put in the work and have your signature slide set there. And it's worthwhile doing a little bit of work. The problem is you have to learn all the material. There is no bullet point that can help you in this style. That you got to have the story in your head. You got to have it down. And this is what I think is the call for all of us educators, that we are way better prepared than anybody else. So we don't need all these bullet points. And I guide my students always, I said, the fewer words you have on the slide, the better the presentation is for me.